So as I mentioned, this steak recipe is the whole reason I am now a proud owner of a 12-inch cast iron pan.
Well, that's going to come in handy because you did just promise me, am I right? The best steak that I'm ever going to have.
You know it.
So I'm going to put my order in. I would like a steak with a nice crust on the outside, juicy on the inside, and medium rare.
You got it. Now the key to such a steak is getting this cast iron pan ripping hot. And of course, here in the test kitchen, we tested a lot of ways to heat up the skillet. We found that the oven worked best. So I'm going to put this guy in the oven, 500 degrees, and when the oven's hot, which will take about half an hour, this bad boy in it, that skillet will be perfectly hot. All right, so while that skillet is heating up in the oven, let's take a look at this beautiful steak I have for you.
Oh, I'm looking.
So this is a lot of me. There's one for you, one for me.
I like the way you think.
Actually, this would serve 4 people because this is 2 pounds of meat and it's about 1.5 inches thick. And that's important because you want there to be enough time to get a good sear on each side without making the steak overcooked, because you said you wanted medium rare.
You listened.
I'm listening. All right, so I'm just going to put some salt on these New York strip steaks, and I'm going to let them sit while the skillet heats up. That, of course, helps enhance that beefy flavor. All right, so let's set these guys aside. I'm just going to wash my hands before we continue. And I have another surprise for you, which is on top of our gorgeous steaks, I'm going to put a little butter, a little flavorful butter, because you are no stranger to butter. So I have here a shallot. I'm going to mince this up. This should give us about 2 tablespoons of minced shallot. Now you want to cut it up just like you would an onion, but you want to use the tip of the knife. So here, first I'm going to slice down, then I'm going to slice across, and then make it into a nice fine mince. Now I'm just going to run my knife over this a couple more times, make sure those pieces are nice and finely minced. We used to get graded on this in culinary school too. The chef would go in here and they'd look for the largest piece they could find and they'd pull it out and say, that's an F.
Really?
Yes. So now I'm a very fine mincer. All right, so I'm going to add this shallot to 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now we're going to add a little bit of parsley. This is, of course, the parsley leaves. We're just going to mince this up. It's about 1 tablespoon of minced parsley. Now we're going to put a few chives into our butter. We're just going to cut these very finely. All right, so that's about 1 tablespoon of chives. Last but not least, a little garlic. This is a small clove of garlic. A little salt, a little pepper. We're just going to mash this all together to make our very flavorful compound butter. All right, so this pan is screaming hot. It's been in here for a good half an hour, which is why I have my industrial heat-proof mitten on. All right, so here's a nifty thing. Slide this on your skillet. It'll help prevent you burning yourself as you walk by.
You know me too well.
Before we get cooking, we're going to finish patting our steaks dry because they've been salting for a while, so a little moisture has come to the surface. And moisture prevents browning from happening, so you want to pat it away. And we're going to season it with a little pepper. So our steaks are ready to go. So we're going to put this skillet over medium-high heat, add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and really get this oil smoking before we add the steaks. And again, that doesn't take very long because this skillet is screaming hot. So I see some smoke on that oil, so it's time to get going. In go the steaks. Ooh, oh yeah. So the cooking time on these steaks is about 9 minutes total. But every 2 minutes, we're going to flip it over. And that ensures an even crust and even cooking throughout the steak. And about halfway through, we're going to turn the heat down to medium-low, because if you don't, you're actually going to get too thick of a crust on these steaks, believe it or not.
Well, that is a far cry from what we always say. We always say, put it in the pan and leave it alone and don't touch it. Don't even look at it for at least 5 minutes. But you're saying this every 2 minutes is really the key for more evenly cooked meat.
That's right. And I am not above using a timer because this steak is worth every second.
And every penny.
All right, it's been about 2 minutes on this first side. Oh, that's not even the final crust, honey. That's just the base layer of crust. The crust builds on top of this. I'm telling you, best steak ever. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes on that second side. Yeah, so I'm gonna flip them back over. And now, as I mentioned before, we're gonna turn the heat down to medium-low, because these steaks need to cook for another 3 to 4 minutes. And you can tell this crust would almost get too thick if we left that heat too high. So medium-low, another 3 to 4 minutes.
this actually reminds me of is back in the 70s when I used to lay out on a lounge chair and try to get tan. I would flip over every few minutes just to cool down. Luckily, I never developed a substantial crust.
That's right. So we're sun tanning these steaks for about another 2 minutes. All right, let's flip these guys over. Look at that crust. I mean, that is not a crust you see outside of a really good grill or a killer 5-star restaurant. All right, so these steaks have been in the pan for about 7 or 8 minutes, and it's time to take their temperature. All right, so we're looking at a temperature of about 120 or so on the nose. So let's get these guys out of that hot pan. Cool. Let's turn the pan off, slide that off the burner a bit. Oh, good night. Oh, isn't that just the best looking steak you've ever seen? All right, just because we can. Just a little butter. I'm just gonna put it.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
As you know, we gotta let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before we slice into it. But let me tell you, the wait is gonna be worth it. Of course, I'm gonna tent it with foil, help keep the heat in.
Foil, keeping the heat in, keeping the Bridget out.
All right, Bridget, the time has come. Oh, the smell of that butter melting over the hot steak. Are you kidding me? All right, so it's time to slice into this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Not much of a gray band right there. And look at that red center.
And seriously juicy.
All right, let me get some of these pieces right from the middle for you that have a whole bunch of that butter. I might just steal a little butter from the other steak.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Look at that. All right, I'm going in. If you don't hear from me in a few days, call my family and tell them I love them.
Need to take a breather? Isn't that good?
You don't actually need teeth to eat this. It is so tender. Oh my gosh. Melt in your mouth. America, I am pleading with you. You need to buy a cast iron skillet. This pan makes a killer crust on steaks, and it all comes down to time and temperature. Preheat the skillet in a 500-degree oven and then move it to the stovetop. Meanwhile, you need to salt flavorful strip steaks and then sear them in that hot skillet. Flip the steaks over every 2 minutes to build a substantial crust and then cook them through evenly. Dollop the cooked steaks with an easy herb compound butter, and there you have it. From our test kitchen to your kitchen, the best dinner that you will ever have. No fooling, cast iron steaks.
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.